Hi, everybody. It's Sarah, your neurospicy friend. I just wanted to provide a quick trigger warning about my intro story. There is mention of adoption, there is mention of some minor teenage drama, nothing explicit, nothing that I hope would cause anybody any sort of turmoil or reaction. However, I do touch on topics such as abandonment and trust issues, paranoia. So please, as you're watching this short introduction, um, just know that it is all in a space of just trying to provide some more context and hopefully share my story so that others can relate. And if you do, by all means, please feel free to comment. I would love to hear from you. But other than that, enjoy my video.
Okay. Take 3. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to share a little bit of my story with you. So, a lot of the origin of my story starts with the fact that I am an adopted individual. I was adopted in South Korea. I was an orphan, and this was back in the 80s. And it looks, the story that I have, and not well confirmed, it's barely documented, is that I was found at a fire station and then delivered safely to an orphanage. So whether that means I was abandoned at the fire station, if I was left in one of those baby boxes, or who knows? I don't know. Honestly, that story is really just hearsay. So yeah. So from that, um, my mother and her husband at the time, they were in Korea living for business. They were there, and my mother decided at that time that it was time to start a family, and she wanted to do that by adopting me. So lucky me, I find my forever home with my mom and her husband, and I was 3, they estimate that I was 3 months old when I arrived to the orphanage. Because there's no documentation of me and there's no known origin, I believe they went off of what they off of dental records to try to get as accurate as possible. So that's what they determined. It was 3 months. Not entirely sure what exactly my birth date is. I do know I was born in 1984. And yep. So, um, I don't know. Sometime later, we end up coming back to the States. I spend the rest of my formative years in my life growing up with my wonderful family in mid-Michigan. Fast forward 40 years later. Um, just like anybody else's lives and stories, it's been full of ups and downs and loves and losses and all of those things that, you know, anybody lives through on any given time. I think the difference, though, that I would like to point out, and this could be said for probably a lot of other individuals out there who struggle with mental illness, is um the part about it that's different than the regular feelings of the ups and the downs and the um just on any given day, you say, "Well, how was your day today?" And you can kind of generally rate it, and you say, "Oh, it was an okay day." On a scale of 1 to 10, maybe you could point out where it is. Um, in my instance, It's not always that easy. Um, there are moments where I have a hard time distinguishing whether or not things are true. Um, and it's hard. It's hard on my loved ones because the confusion that it causes, because I'm also very high functioning. So on the outside, I can appear to be doing most all the things that need to be done to just kind of function on a daily basis. On the inside, sometimes it's a different story. And those that are closest to me probably know this better than anybody else. And I guess I'm sharing this just in the hopes of creating some more understanding because it's like we say on our podcasts, like, or that you guys will find out soon, is that this is middle mess. I am not like, here's all the things that I've done to make myself better. No, 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 no. I am not better. I am currently coming out of a really intense manic state. I've had a year of ups and downs, and it's taken its toll. And I am still in the middle of it and figuring it out. So, welcome to the journey, people. Um, it's sad and scary sometimes, and you feel very alone. Um, so once I had, um, I don't know, reached my preteen or my teenage years, yeah, this is the crazy part uh, about borderline personality disorder, because I've researched this and I've heard this on more than one occasion, is, parents will be like, "Yeah, my kid was great," and, like, just a dream until they hit their teenage years, and then it was all of a sudden off the rails, and everybody chalks it up to hormones, teenage hormones, right? Unruly teenagers, all of those types of things. Okay, so, uh, crazy part is that in my teenage years and my preteen years, that's when things started really going sideways. So up until that point, my poor mother, she had thought that she had um such a great kid, such a great, smart, obedient kid, and then I lost my mind. Some traumatic things had happened in my teenage years. Some things that I it's not a story that I don't think there's all sorts of teenage girls that have gone through these stories, you know. You make the wrong decision, you take the ride from the wrong person, you drink one too many, you don't stick with the girlfriends, whatever the case may be. The story is there. And then it was just trauma. Trauma, 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 trauma. After that, I could not seem to not chase it. And I don't know if there could be a lot of factors in my teenage to young adult years. Um, Being untreated, being unmedicated, being self-medicated, being just irresponsible in a way that I could only fear for my own children now. Um, Yeah. So, moving forward a little bit more into my story, in my 20s, dated my high school sweetheart, uh, married 3 kids later, and then divorce. All sorts of things in that picture that unfortunately just did not seem to pan out. Um, but I will say, I got 3 really wonderful kids out of it, and there's nothing else that I ever do with my life. Them alone will be enough. Uh, Kids, postpartum, depression. These are the cliff notes, folks. Again, untreated, unmedicated, therapy every once in a while. Oh, I was committed a few times, sprinkled in there. Committed once in my teen years, committed again a couple times in my adult years. But again, high functioning. So we have to remember that I'll hit these walls, I'll hit these cycles, and then go right back into life as normal and just doing the things. And to my credit, to other people out there with mental health issues, other people with borderline personality, high functioning bipolar, all of those things, to our credit. Those things that make us seem a little unstable at times, or maybe in my case, sometimes very unstable, also give us the things that make us really, really great. So our superpower is sometimes of being able to relate to others. Our superpower sometimes of always having a plan and a backup plan because we overthink. Superpower sometimes of loving so incredibly fiercely because we feel feelings really, really intensely. And that feeling of love and acceptance, it's so, so strong. Um, so if you've ever loved a person with BPD, you might know what I'm talking about. It's almost intoxicating because it's almost like, they can make you their whole world. But it takes work, takes a lot to keep that foundation steady. Um, Symptoms. They were all symptoms. My whole story is littered with red flags and symptoms of my illness. Things that I guess maybe I thought that I was a more mild case than I am. I was told my whole life, "Oh, you have such a wild imagination. You must be so creative and blah, blah, blah." I'm going to tell you, I work in a field of operations and I assess risk for a living. I have little to no creative bones in my body. So for that label to be put on me that I've always lived with because I thought like, oh, I have such an active imagination. I have such an active brain. Um, nope, the whole time it was mental illness, hallucinations, psychosis, depression, anxiety, touch of OCD potentially. Um, that's that's what it is. But sometimes you can't tell because I'll take that energy and I'll pour it into a project. I'll pour it into my job. I'll pour it into loving my family and my friends. And like, those are the things that I want to be able to turn something that can turn bad so quickly into something good so much. Alas, it's a journey. So, sometime in my 30s, had a pretty big, massive breakdown. Ended up divorced, single momming it with my kids. And then I met my husband, my now husband, who is an amazing person, who when I first met him was like nobody else that I had ever met. And to this day, he is like nobody else that I have ever met. And I could say the same for probably me to him, because I am like nobody else he has ever met. It's a unique way of dealing with me. It's tricky, but we don't give up. I say that in the vein of truth, you guys, that like, yeah, I do cause a lot of tension and a lot of stress in relationships sometimes. I can see that when I step back. Sometimes it just takes a while. So, anyways, now it's sad time, sad introspective time about all the ways that I probably did mess up, but that's for another episode. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this insight to, I hate the word insanity, but it definitely feels a little bit like it. So, welcome to somewhere between the chaos and the calm. Have a good night.